And in some breaking news that's coming in, Russia has banned UK-linked planes from its airspace. Remember, this coming in after after UK slaps sanctions on Russia. In fact, remember, just yesterday, Boris Johnson had said that intense economic sanctions are going to be imposed on Russia. He went on to even call Vladimir Putin the Russian dictator as well. And now, of course, Russia retaliating to those sanctions that have been slapped by the UK, banning UK-linked planes from its airspace. Meanwhile, amid this war, US, UK, Canada and Australia have imposed fresh sanctions on Russia. UK has frozen all assets of major Russian banks in the country. Australia has imposed sanctions against Russia, targeting several of its elite citizens and lawmakers. Also, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison criticized Russia for easing restrictions on trade with Russia. Those are the details coming in at this point in time. This is the latest that we have as far as the sanctions on UK, I beg your pardon, on Russia are concerned, with Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison criticizing China for easing restrictions on trade with Russia. Remember, China refused to condemn Putin for this decision of war. In fact, let's bring in some more perspective here. Surendra Kumar, former ambassador, is joining me on the broadcast. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for speaking to us here on Mirror Now. Quite a bit has changed since we last spoke yesterday in terms of further sanctions being imposed on Russia. More reports of the violence that is going on at this point in time. What is your own sense now in terms of how bad the situation is, and what are the possible way forward at this time?
You see, sanctions take time. Economic sanctions is not instant coffee. It takes months before they start biting. But fact is, the situation is very messy. Even those countries which were quite sympathetic to Russian security concerns, I myself felt they had genuine security concern. The reckless expansion of NATO up to border Russia was wrong, and they should have really paid attention to their concerns. But in spite of all the provocations also including that I'm told the USA and some NATO countries have been sending armament, defense equipment to Ukraine. But no provocation is big enough to really invade a country. I am not part of Indian government. These are my personal views. I personally feel that if country will start invading neighboring countries in such a fashion, it will set a very, very bad precedent. But tomorrow, suppose we have a conflict with China. China and Lhasa has got tanks, they have rocket launcher, they have all kinds, they can really unleash thousands of real soldiers. There's no end. Look at Pakistan. We all know they have terrorist camp. We know that perpetrators of 26 number they are there. We all know Hafiz Saeed, we know Masood, all of them. That if we were to take this example, we would have really sent tanks and march up to Lahore or Rawalpindi. No, that is not the way the international order will work. I personally feel, yes, we must really see that Russian security concerns are addressed by NATO. They must do something to assure them that this will not really jeopardize their security concerns. But Russians cannot really just invade a country like this. Now, we are in a bind. We are neutral. We have to, our national interests really warrant. We must remain neutral. We are neutral. But the fact is, internationally, voices must have to be raised that this kind of invasion sets up very, very bad precedent. Take, for example, Americans are angry with Mexico. They say many of these drug addicts are coming from there. A lot of other things are coming. They should we invade Mexico? Or should they go to Canada? And this is not the way to do it. I personally feel right now, all these sanctions these countries are doing, they will not have any immediate impact on Russia. Though eventually they will have. But fact is that there's very few countries, yes, our Prime Minister rightly had talked with Putin, and they might have discussed that violence should observe and we must not really let it escalate. And our concern, our old student, other 25,000 odd Indians, they should be safely. Some of them are going to Romania, Hungary, Poland, other places. But fact is that even 100,000 Ukrainians have gone to Poland. They are going to Hungary. I mean, you create this kind of chaos on innocent people, which is unbearable. I personally feel in the present circumstances, neither USA nor EU, NATO, or even India have a very strong leverage against Russia. The only country which has leverage is China, because in the face of all these sanctions, only country which will come to rescue of Russia is China. In the Security Council, even outside, they can buy their gas, they can buy their oil, they can support financially also. They are sitting on a pile of $3 trillion of foreign exchange reserve. But China will have to be roped in a more positive way. Now, China is the only country which is saying it's not invasion. No other country has not invaded China. So China has seen this kind of vulnerability of USA and EU, NATO countries. They can really issue strong statement, condemnation, sanctions. They will not be sending the troops. They will not be sending boots on the ground. They will not be able to alter the kind of impact of the Russian invasion. So I don't know whether Americans are prepared discreetly, diplomatically, to rope in China in some kind of de-escalation process. But Chinese have leverage. Chinese also will not like to go beyond the point to support Russia. For simple reason, Chinese huge economic interest lies with USA and Europe. China's largest trading partner is USA. China has surplus trade of more than $450 billion with US alone. So they will not like to kill they will not like to kill this whole process, which is really economically very beneficial for them. I personally feel discreetly, all countries will keep on making appeals, urges, but discreetly, Chinese must be brought into play, a more positive role. They will not abandon Russia, because Chinese also are facing brunt of all the sanctions and all kind of things which were imposed by Trump and been continued by President Biden. I am not sure Russians are really very happy about the situation, but they can't be unhappy because they have really achieved at least part of their objective. Whether the regime change is possible in the near future, they will do it or not do it, but certainly they have sent out a message to other East European countries which have become member of NATO that there are red lines and they must be careful.
Yes, absolutely. But of course, it remains to be seen whether that is going to be possible in terms of bringing China in some form, and how far will China go to actually support Russia. But the other point that you mentioned, I wanted to, you to elaborate a little bit more in terms of the precedent that this sets, if this is allowed to continue. What are the repercussions of that, and how bad could it be? Because obviously, we're only seeing economic sanctions being levied, no other form of help, so to speak, other than, of course, relief and aid that is possibly going to be sent by other countries. But in terms of actually coming out there with boots on ground, that is not going to happen. So what are the ramifications of this precedent?
The ramifications are even countries like India, which are not involved directly, will face the consequences. There will be a spike in oil prices. There will be spike in the transportation costs. They will be already stocks are really falling. Now, there will be international repercussions in energy crisis. There will be higher inflation, either disruption of supply chains. And this is the kind of scene which we have seen when the Americans have invaded Iraq. It's a much, much bigger invasion. But fact remains, what happened? We were having a valid contract with Iraq to supply oil to India at the rate of $12 per barrel. And suddenly it went to $65. Now you can imagine 5 times more. So we will be having a lot of economic consequences. And also, if, Ukraine is small, they can take over Kiev, maybe change regime. But are the Ukrainians are going to just lie low? I think they will resort to some kind of guerrilla warfare. They will really hide and they will really attack, and it can prolong long time. But we have seen sometime even the advanced countries with most advanced weaponry cannot subdue a very, a kind of fighters who have missed the regime. Look at Afghanistan. 20 years, Americans could not beat Taliban. And they had to go out from there in a very humiliating condition. Though their superiority of weaponry, nobody can question. But weapons alone cannot, because people on the ground should be for you. I personally feel that many Ukrainians who might have emotionally, linguistically, culturally, and maybe religious way must have felt very close to Russia, may not be feeling as close. And I've been reading that there have been some protests, even Russia, against this action, because they didn't like that Russians would be taking such action, because millions of innocent Ukrainians are suddenly find their lives turned upside down, total chaos. So I personally feel that we are going to see a lot of messy things. Touch wood, right now, the Omicron or COVID-19 or whatever Delta variation, they are ebbing. But if in these conditions you have this kind of a pandemic coming, you can see what kind of human disaster which we have. We will already have refugees. We are UN talking about maybe 1 million refugees will be going to different countries. I think Russians should have got their grievances, genuine grievances, security concerns addressed. And I think blame to USA and EU is there. They did not respond. But even now, they have made a point, and I think NATO must give an olive branch saying, yes, let us talk. What are your serious concerns in terms of security? And we will discuss them. Let them also maybe announce that, okay, next 10 years, there is no question of giving any membership to Ukraine. This is something to climb down the temperatures and give diplomacy a chance. And I again see, I think if Americans make an appeal to China, China will like to help. Because Chinese have been very badly affected by the imposition of tariff warfare we call during Trump's time. Their economy was devastated. Their economy is slowly recovering, and they will like to have some kind of thaw in their relations with USA because the huge economic content is there. And they will be also feeling a little more, gratified that, look, their importance will be recognized by USA. They are wanting their help. And I don't see why should anybody be reluctant to rope in them, not publicly, discreetly. They have all channels are available to them. And we will continue doing what we are doing. But I personally feel, as a matter of principle, all countries should say, Russian concerns should be addressed. This reckless expansion should stop. At the same time, we must not set up an example internationally where big countries can just march in forces in a neighboring country and take it over. That is totally wrong. We must object to this because it can have serious repercussions to many countries in the future.
Yes, absolutely. That is an extremely important point that you've mentioned there, Ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us that perspective.